everyone. Welcome to our 6th podcast of the year on AAPI representation in sports. This podcast is hosted by OCA, which is a non-profit organization with the mission to advance the social, political, and economic well-being of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the United States. All of us here are YOCA interns, and we speak on key issues and topics that the youth face on a daily basis. So let's just go around in a circle and introduce ourselves. I'm Sophie.
I'm Anderson.
I'm Emily.
I'm Jaden.
Alright, so during this episode, we're going to talk about the status quo of Asian Americans in the sports world and maybe the stereotype about Asian Americans, some notable Asian American athletes, and what we can hopefully do to improve the situations for Asian American athletes in the future. So, when we usually talk about sports, what sports come to mind?
Basketball, football, soccer, baseball, usually sports that are kind of, Western.
Exactly. And so in a lot of these sports, maybe AAPI, the AAPI community isn't as widely advertised or known. And so, anyone want to introduce the statistics? Anyone?
So in the NBA, 0.4% of the people are Asian. In the NFL, less than 2% are Asian in all of history. In the Premier League,
0.27% of all soccer players in the Premier League are Asian. In Major League Baseball, only 2.9% are Asian. And in the college scene, the NCAA, 2% are Asian.
Yeah, so in case someone doesn't know, NBA stands for National Basketball Association, NFL stands for National Football League, and NCAA stands for
National Collegiate Athletic Association.
Okay. So this is basically the Asian American statistics in popular sports. Like, in most scenarios, we're not even 1%, right? And this is also true in college levels and even the high school levels. Anyone have any personal stories about that?
Yeah, so I play basketball on a varsity basketball team. It's very rare to play against Asian players, and I am the only Asian player on the team. So it's definitely true in the high school level as well, and not only in basketball, all the sports that we mentioned before. So definitely Asians are a minority in the sports world.
Yeah. So this can also sort of lead to a stereotype about Asian Americans that as Asian Americans, we generally do not excel in sports. Well, that might be true in some cases. In other cases, it's not exactly the truth. So I think everyone knows about the model minority stereotype, which is where Asian Americans are academic, they're quote-unquote nerds, and they're really good at STEM, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is just a stereotype, and we can't judge everyone based on that stereotype. Because of that stereotype, Asian Americans have been facing challenges in the sports world. Anyone want to speak about that?
so they're unfamiliar with the recruitment process, and it's a risky profession, and it's also taboo. It's not a very stable profession. And there's also discrimination in sports, and there's mental health conflicts too.
Yeah, anyone want to expand on why exactly it's taboo? Jaden?
Yeah, so I would say definitely a lot of Asian parents, they value academics. Alright, I would say a lot of Asian parents, they definitely prioritize academic performance over sports performance. So as a result, a lot of Asian kids, teenagers, they spend a lot more time focusing on their academics instead of sports, and that kind of creates a taboo over time, kind of how athletes are generally not good students. So I would say that's definitely something, definitely a cause of the low percentage of Asian individuals in the sports world.
Or if you want to learn more about the model minority or how it affects Asian American representation in media, feel free to check out our first and I think first and fourth podcast, guys. Go check it out. Okay. So they can also often have mental health conflicts, like Emily has said before, due to a lack of support. And Jaden said that this is often because Asian American parents try to push their children towards STEM-related fields, towards academics more than sports, which can also really lead to these AAPI students feeling this pressure that they have to be both good at academics, which their parents expect, and somehow also excelled in this place that they feel passionate about themselves. Let's talk about some notable AAPI athletes. Anyone want to say any that comes off the top of your head? Anyone?
Yeah, so in the NBA, I watch a lot of basketball. Definitely Jeremy Lin comes to mind.
With his Linsanity.
Yeah, New York Knicks. That's definitely something that comes to mind. Yao Ming, of course. Even less well-known, Yi Jianlian, who played for the Milwaukee Bucks. I believe last decade, who had a really good career in the NBA. And I watch a lot of golf as well. Hideki Matsuyama, who was a former Masters winner. I believe he was, if not the first, but one of the first Asian golfers who won the Masters. So that's definitely a good accomplishment.
Another one to discuss is maybe Chloe Kim, who was a snowboarder.
Yeah, I think
and
she
also
won
Mosi
medal.
Tatupu, who was, what was he?
He was a fullback in football.
Oh, fullback.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's also Nathan Chen, who won a gold, I think, in men's figure skating this
Oh yeah.
Winter Olympics.
Oh yeah. One notable name that goes around in football nowadays is Younghoe Koo, who is a place kicker for the Atlanta Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the second most accurate place kicker in the league right now, behind Justin Tucker.
Yeah. So those are all some Asian American athletes in these sports who have excelled in their various fields. They've broken through the stereotypes, and they've shown that Asian Americans can also be really good at sports, bringing it even up to the Olympic levels.
One example being, of course, Younghoe Koo, as explained.
Yeah. So everyone, feel free to search these people up. If you didn't exactly catch them, you can just search up AAPI athletes. So even though we've just given you a few examples of these people who have succeeded despite the stereotypes and despite the challenges they've faced, Asian Americans still face many challenges when they try to pursue a career or their hobby in sports. This is mainly in part due to the stereotype that we've talked about before, which is Asian Americans are not good at sports. Anyone want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think one big reason why it's not necessarily true is that we can't only focus on Western sports, as we've talked about, such as basketball, football, baseball. And I think in sports such as badminton, table tennis, taekwondo, gymnastics, even swimming, Asians have regularly excelled, and we have dominated in the past in the Olympics. For example, in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, China finished second in the medal leaderboard, just behind the United States, and Japan also finished fifth, which were both really impressive accomplishments.
Well, Taekwondo is a part of the Olympics. It's not as widely watched, possibly, as maybe probably like the NBA or the NFL or the World Cup, but this is definitely a growing portion. And the Olympics now has a more diverse range of sports, which is not just limited to the Western sports that Jaden has mentioned earlier. So this can also tie into the high school track. Even in high school, a lot more Asian Americans are competing in more diverse sports, like
cross country, track and field, and tennis.
And yeah, Jaden, you participate in basketball. Any other stories around that?
I'm on a golf team as well. I'll say more and more Asians are beginning to play golf as well, definitely. I have 2 teammates who are Asian on the golf team, and I think the sport where we see a dramatic increase in the percentage of Asian participants is cross country. A lot of my friends do cross country. They've earned they earned commendations, or they've earned medals, and they've had really impressive records at the state and even the national level. And I think it's important to acknowledge these accomplishments outside of sports such as basketball, football, and baseball.
So yeah, Asian Americans are participating more and more in sports. We're showing that Asian Americans can be just as good in sports as everyone else.
A few of the advocacy organizations that have helped Asian Americans in sports include the Asian American Athletes Alliance, or AAAA.
That's 4 A's, guys, in case you lost track.
They create opportunities, build networks, and provide resources for AAPI athletes, coaches, and professionals to succeed and make a positive impact in the sports industry. And their website is http://www.asianamericanathletealliance.org. Another example would be the Asian American Pacific Islanders Sports Officials Association, which is to...
It's a non-profit professional and educational organization with members across the United States. AAPI-SOA's mission is to increase the number of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders sports officials by encouraging AAPIs to enter the ranks of sports officiating, to build and foster a community of AAPI sports officials, to provide guidance and scholarship assistance to promising AAPI sports officials, and to advocate the advancement of AAPI officials.
Yeah, so those are just 2 of the advocacy organizations that you can reach out to or possibly participate in order to advocate more for AAPI representation in sports. Another one of these is NBA Apex. Jaden, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so the NBA Apex is a team. It strives to increase the awareness of Asian cultures in the NBA. As we've mentioned before, Asians are definitely a minority in the NBA. So the NBA Apex, in action that's well known, is that I believe back in 2018, the team hosted an API Sports and Culture Symposium at the NBA's New York office to celebrate Asian American culture and to acknowledge the existence of Asian American culture in the NBA. So I think even in sports where Asians are a minority, it's important to acknowledge the API cultures and to continue to strive to increase diversity in those sports.
Yeah. So like I've said before, if any listeners are interested in reaching out and helping to advocate for more AAPI representation in sports, feel free to go to any of these websites or organizations. I don't think Jaden said this, but the link for NBA Apex is www.nba.com. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, just search up NBA Apex on the NBA website and you should be able to see it.
So guys, after listening to us talk about all these advocacy groups, how about we just dive a bit more into these notable Asian American athletes and their history? Yeah?
Yeah. So I'll start with Jeremy Lin. So he's a Taiwanese American professional basketball player. He was actually the first AAPI basketball player to win an NBA championship. He did so in 2019, playing for the Toronto Raptors. And during the 2011 to 2012 season, his amazing performance created a cultural phenomenon known as Linsanity. So here are his stats from 2011 to 2012 when he played for New York Knicks. He played around 35 minutes a game, which is really high considering every game is only 48 minutes. He averaged 14.6 points a game, but in a lot of games he scored 30 plus, which is really difficult to do in the NBA. And he also had a really successful season with the LA Lakers, playing with Kobe Bryant. So that's something to note. And let's talk more about Jeremy Lin's education. So he attended Harvard University. He was a 3-time All-Conference player in the Ivy League. So even in college, Jeremy Lin standing out. And he was undrafted, but later signed with the Golden State Warriors in 2010. And in 2010, he began his NBA career, which will be memorable for a long time. Now, another figure in another sport, in golf, is Colin Morikawa. So Colin Morikawa is Japanese-American. He is relatively new in the world of golf, but he has accumulated many career wins. He has so far had 5 career wins, and he's looking for another win this week at the BMW Championship. He has played in 96 events. He's had 5 PGA Tour wins again, 1 international win. He's made 79 out of 96 cuts. So for those of you who don't know, a cut in golf just means for every tournament there are 4 days. After the first 2 days, half of the players are eliminated. So you've made the cut if you're in the upper half of the players. So 79 out of 96 cuts is really impressive. And then Colin Morikawa has won $24 million on the PGA Tour, which is up there in the top earning spots for the PGA Tour. And he currently ranks as the 20th golfer in the world.
Yeah, so another notable AAPI athlete is Nathan Chen. He is an American figure skater. He was in the 2022 Olympic Games, and he was the champion. He has currently, I think, around 10 gold medals throughout his career. He's been regarded as one of the greatest figure skaters of all time. He also holds the highest winning percentage in competitions with more than 3-year winning streak from 2018 to 2021. He's also known as the Quad King since he's landed like a lot of the quadruple jumps. And he also goes to Yale University, so he's good at both academics and sports. Anderson?
Okay. Asian Americans have quite a bit of history in the NFL, but like one of the most recent rising stars in the NFL, his name is Younghoe Koo. He was born in South Korea, but immigrated to the U.S. in 6th grade. In fact, a touch football match that he played during lunchtime, which was the entire reason he led to the status he has as a star in the NFL that he has today. He went to Georgia Southern, and he became a part of the Sun Belt Conference's first team, and he currently holds the field goal percentage record for Georgia Southern at 88.6%. His career began when he signed with the Chargers as an undrafted free agent following the 2017 NFL draft. But he was cut after he missed, I think, 2 game-winning field goals. And then
yeah, so he was.
And then he later signed, and then after spending 2 years kind of like in the spring football leagues and on teams, practice squads, he signed with the Falcons, who needed to cut that out. And he made 4 field goals, including a 50-yarder in his first year with the Falcons. In 2020, he was nominated to his first Pro Bowl after he led the league in field goals made and the amount of total points, in scoring 144 total points.
Thank you, Anderson. Emily has another athlete, Chloe Kim, I think.
Yeah, so Chloe Kim was born on April 23rd of 2000, and she's an American snowboarder and a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. She became the youngest woman to win an Olympic snowboarding gold medal at 17 years old in the 2018 Winter Olympics.
Yeah, so that's a lot of achievements made by the 5 people that we've talked about in this section. So now we're going to talk about some personal stories. I guess I can start. I'm on our school's varsity swim team, and personally our team has around 20 people maybe, but there's only 3 Asian Americans on that team. And so this is also showing how the Asian American representation might not be as high as we want it yet. Jaden, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, so I'm on varsity basketball, and as I've mentioned, I am the only Asian player on the team. And definitely when we go and play games, it's definitely a rare scene to play against Asian players as well. And sometimes in basketball, there's, again, the stereotype that Asians generally are not as aggressive as other players on the court when it comes to areas such as defense and rebounding. People usually think that Asians are not as good as the other players. But I think definitely I've played with a lot of my friends who are Asian who are really good at basketball, who go to different schools. And I think it's definitely becoming more common for AAPI athletes, basketball athletes, to excel.
Yeah, you've mentioned that you also play golf. Is there anything in that too?
Yeah, I think golf is gaining popularity in the Asian community. And I think, as I've talked about Colin Morikawa, and there are a lot of other AAPI athletes in the PGA Tour, and I think it's, what can I say?
It's gaining more popularity in the AAPI community.
Yeah, and I think golf, it's a great opportunity to communicate and socialize. And I think if Asians begin to participate in golf more, then golf could be made a more diverse sport. There's the impression that golf is not a very inclusive and diverse sport, but I think the fact that today Asians, more API athletes are playing golf, shows that it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah. So Emily, Anderson, do you guys have any other stories? No? Anderson? No. Okay. So that's basically a wrap to this podcast. So in conclusion, we've talked about the AAPI stats and stereotypes affecting AAPI communities in the sports world. We've delved a bit more into the stereotype that Asian Americans face. We've talked about the stories and successes that some AAPI athletes have achieved. And there's also some advocacy organizations that everyone is feel free to check out if you want to support AAPI representation in sports. Just to give you a recap on these advocacy organizations, the first one is Asian American Athletes Alliance, that's 4 A's. The second one is Asian American Pacific Islanders Sports Officials Association. And the third one is NBA Apex. Keep in mind that this is not all of the advocacy organizations. These are just the 3 that we've come up with. And guys, feel free to search them up. Feel free to join your local varsity team or sports team and play your part. AAPI representation in sports is very important. We're a growing part of the U.S. population by the year, and it can start to influence a broader social change with more AAPI representation. Guys, also feel free to join in your local OCA chapter to help advocate for things to benefit AAPIs, right? All of us here are currently a part of OCA-WHV, Westchester Hudson Valley chapter. Guys, feel free to pop in and tell them we sent you. Guys, continue listening and supporting and advocating for AAPI athletes and representation in the sports world. Thank you, and we'll see you in our next podcast or next year. Guys, thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.